Hello, my friends, and welcome to Feedback Friday. It's the Friday before Thanksgiving, so we're going to make this a jam-packed almost hour of interaction and entertainment. So thank you for joining us. We have a small group of people thus far. We have Kevin Alcott, Dinosaur Battle, Carniedas, Mushu, DOD, Ann Adams. Yes, yes, yes. Hello, my friend. Okay, our first question comes from The Ride, which is, why does Jenny always wear those dark glasses? You know, that's a great question. Maybe she has a sensitivity to the extraordinary bright light of the studio. Maybe it helps her get into character more. I don't know. That's a great question. I should ask Jenny that question myself. Jenny, why do you wear those dark glasses? Audio is a little weak, says Ann Adams. What do you want to do about that, Dave? Cindy, hello. Rymore Morris, welcome. Welcome, my friends, welcome. Ryan Moore says Thanksgiving was a while ago. I'm Canadian. Yes. So, couple things. I'm just gonna warm up a little bit while we're waiting for a few more people to join us. I don't know what song that is. I keep trying to play that song. Like, it's just a song in my brain. Crawford, why is the stream quality so default horrible? Oh no, now it's better. So my friends, today we're going to talk about a couple different things. I'd like to give some updates, because we have some updates, and talk a little bit about the shows. But you know, I'm kind of feeling like it's a pretty open plate today. So we could even do some ask me anything type things. I will touch on world building a little bit. So you know, we'll start off with the updates. We'll move on to a little bit of world building. We'll talk a little bit about setting the mood for your games. I've really recently been trying to inspire myself to take on different kinds of cultural and mythological influences when I'm thinking about world building. So we're going to talk a little bit about all those things, and we might even have a special guest or two. So Ann Adams is here. Hey Tex, how's it going? Hey VA. So I guess I'll start off with updates from the world of Patreon. So those of you who are patrons, many among you are on right now, you might know that we basically started a world building project that was just a town, and it's grown into much bigger things. So that is the Lagoch project, and we have been kind of working our way through the first phase of turning that experiment into a reality. And that basically involved a lot of organizing of the ideas. My patrons contributed ideas. Some people, you know, gave ideas for NPCs or shops or even story hooks. And a lot of great things came together. So the last couple months, we have been organizing things. Topo Musical and DoD Spec Ops, and I have been basically fleshing out a lot of the initial ideas. And we're making some good progress with that. It's been a little slow on my part because of the fact that we've been doing a lot more here with the shows and other content. So that's been, you know, keeping us kind of busy. But here's the cool update. So last night I actually had, what was that? Last night I had a conference call with DoD Spec Ops and Topo Musical, and it was awesome. We talked through a whole bunch of the organizational kind of things that we needed to flesh out, you know, basically almost like creating a to-do list to kind of get through phase one and move into phase two. I am happy to say that we have over 50 NPCs that are going to be included in Lagoch, and there's more that are going to be added. We have decided that we are going to set a goal of creating 10 fully fleshed out adventures, like modules that will be adventures set in the Lagoch region, as well as 20 smaller story hooks, which are basically like, imagine like a one-page summary and outline for how a DM could basically take a story hook and turn it into an adventure. And I think this is a huge breakthrough, because it basically makes our book so that a DM who maybe needs more help can use the fully fleshed out adventures. And by the way, we are going to have adventures and story hooks that cover all levels. So low level, mid level, higher level, all tiers of play. And then it also leaves, like I said, those 20 story hooks so that DMs who are maybe more experienced or just like to improvise a bit more can have a basis for a story hook that will include like kind of location information, NPCs, major plot points. But it'll leave it more open-ended so that the DM can kind of freestyle with it. So that discussion was very fruitful. It was great getting to talk to Topo and DoD, and we're going to be having future scheduled conference calls where we work on this. The ultimate goal is to be able to produce this patron collaboration as a real thing, as a Kickstarter. And it's very exciting because I think we're going to have a very robust book with a lot of great content. DoD has been networking and connecting with a lot of different artists, so we're going to have some great art as well, and it'll be exciting. So that's something that is still in progress, and we're working towards, kind of moving into the next phase. So let's see who we got. Hey, Aiden, how's it going? Hey, Istvan. James Woodwright. The Ride says, Bill, it's good when you start an episode with a resume. You should show a map where the party is also. Yeah, so I do, I don't know if you mean resume, but a recap. I do try to recap when we have a chance. Sometimes that recap is on camera for you guys. Sometimes we do a recap before we start rolling cameras so that the players remember where we left off. As you guys probably know, balancing the filming schedule with high school students is the hardest part about making this show. Everybody has different activities, clubs, sports, jobs. So sometimes we could have 2 weeks before we get a show, and it can throw people off because, the players forget certain things. I do try to encourage them to take notes, but they usually don't. So yeah. Hey, Tori Fox. Hello, welcome. Glad you can make it to Feedback Friday. Yes, Istvan, for the Lagoch project, this book is intended to be full of adventures, social interactions, explorations, encounters from levels 1 through 20. And we're making it a system-neutral book so that basically you could play any edition of D&D, or if you wanted to play it with Pathfinder or another fantasy role-playing game system, you can. Kevin, turning 15 in December, and I might ask for some gaming equipment. What would you need, Kevin? If you're talking about gaming stuff, I always tell people, don't go buying all the books right away. I think the Player's Handbook is the most important book. I think a group can play D&D with the Player's Handbook and some dice. And people, instead of jumping on the book bandwagon, I would say maybe get some minis. Or, buy a pack of terrain tiles or a dry erase or wet erase map. Because I think you could have a lot of fun with just the Player's Handbook and a group of people playing the game with some dice and minis. And then eventually buy more books. But that's my thought. Yes, DoD, thank you for signing in, please, and share the video. Thank you for all your support, and make sure you guys click on that thumbs up. It lets other people know that we're doing this live video right this second. Aiden, good to see you. Michael Flynn, hello, my friend. James Woodwright says, what monsters could I put into a mine that like embashing? James, I would say, I'm not sure what embashing means. So when I think of mines, think of caves, caverns, and mines. Now a mine is man-made. So I think when I think of a mine that's been overrun. So maybe it was originally created and people were mining there, what creatures would have come and taken over a mine and then tried to hold onto it as a base camp? Well, if you're lower level, surely you could pick goblins, kobolds, orcs, maybe a ogre, maybe some hobgoblins. But you'd also want to think from a story perspective, why would they take over the mine? What did that mine have? You know, is it something as easy as gold and silver? Or maybe the mine was like an iron mine, and the reason why this specific group or faction took it over is because they need the iron to smelt, and they want to make weapons and armor. And there's a much larger conspiracy behind this mine being taken over. You could also say that the miners delved too deeply and accidentally opened up into a natural cavern system that leads into the Underdark, which could scale up your whole adventure by bringing in a lot of subterranean, more powerful dwellers. There are plenty of options where you could tie that in as well. For inspiration, I would say certainly look at Lord of the Rings, the Mines of Moria. You know, just in that scenario, you have orcs on one layer, you have goblins on another, and then you have a Balrog. So, I mean, imagine, you know, you have some elaborate mine system that's been overrun by a faction, but then maybe another faction's moved in and they both want what's in the mine, but then that mine also connects to a much lower subterranean culture of creatures, or, you know, maybe not just creatures or monsters, but like sentient people who also want access to the surface mine, and, you know, maybe like Druger, the you know, the deep dwarves, or the Svirfneblin. So those are just some ideas. Yeah, and rust monsters, certainly. Rust monsters. Man, I remember rust monsters. Like, I remember when DMs would use rust monsters anytime a party was too powerful, and just like to come through and like ruin everybody's armor and swords. And then it was like amazing if you had like a magic sword that could resist the rust monster's ability. That was like a special thing. Yes, so Kanoko, what do you think of the new class? So I don't know it. I'm gonna tell you guys, I haven't had a chance. I've been so busy. I have not had a chance to check out Unearthed Arcana and to really look deeply at what they're offering. My feeling overall with Unearthed Arcana and any supplemental stuff is you're free to use it. You know, any group, if you decide that you want to use optional rules, if you decide that you want to use expansions or third-party source material or classes that have been added through Unearthed Arcana or proficiencies or spells, absolutely, feel free to use it. But what I will say is that I don't feel like you have to use it. I never feel compelled to use supplemental material. And I know a lot of people will say like, oh, the ranger class is broken. They suck. They're so weak. They need to be fixed. Well, I don't know if that's true. I guess if you're looking at, you know, stats and you're comparing paladins to rangers in 5th edition, yeah, maybe at higher levels a paladin's going to be way more powerful than a ranger. But is power the only measurement of whether something works? I don't think so. I think you can have fun playing a class regardless of how powerful they are. I think that people who focus too much on power and mathematical balance in a game might be kind of missing the point to playing the game and choosing a race and a class that's going to be fun to play, regardless of how they compare to others. So that's maybe some food for thought. Rymor Morris says, definitely buy a battle mat. I agree. Cave Fisher, yes. You could do some Minotaur or Ogres. Good idea. This is going back to the mines. All of these are good ideas. Do you have any suggestions for monsters I could have coming into a town? Absolutely. In fact, I'll share one with you right now. Gnolls. 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 I just reread Gnolls, and they're they are fearsome. And they are just pure chaos and destruction. Like, that's what they do. So I think a gnoll raid on a town would be a great beginning of a campaign. And maybe you'd find out that there's like more powerful gnolls behind the gnoll raid. And then maybe there's some more powerful figure behind those gnolls, like some demon lord. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to start at lower level and work your way up with a kind of a recurring faction or a recurring group of bad guys. Oh, thank you guys. Thank you for your donations. We do need to replenish the Coke Zero fund. I appreciate that. We are dry right now on the Coke Zero. Tori Fox comes up with some more ideas. Kobolds, boggarts, or as I used to say, bogarts. Etten, ogres, lizard folk, orcs, goblins, hobgoblins, bandits. Yes, the story hook really is the key. I think it goes, you could, there are tables in the Dungeon Master's Guide where you could randomly roll for subterranean encounters. And that's fine if you're making it up on the fly. But you probably also want to have something pre-planned so that the story goes beyond more than just the mines. And if the players choose not to follow that storyline, that's fine, but at least you have it prepared. So thank you, Anne. Thank you, DOD. My go-to monster is an orc, says Jacinto. I love orcs. They are always and will always be a fun and very useful thing. Sometimes the simplest monsters can keep your players on their toes if you just tweak them a little bit or add some storyline element to it. Maybe there's a veteran orc who's got levels and who maybe has like a magical sword and really good armor and has combat training and has some maneuvers, and maybe he's drawn a horde together. So that kind of stuff could be cool. Maybe there's a half-orc who has earned the respects of the full-blooded orcs and has a lot more tactical training and has really learned how to outfit the orcs and kind of bring them up to more than just primitive banditry, and has actually trained them. And now there's a whole group of these well-trained fighter orcs under the leadership of this intelligent half-orc who maybe is a paladin. I don't know. Oh, a behir. Yes, VA says, I dropped a behir into a mine and used alchemical, electrochemical resources. That's awesome. That's a great idea. Yeah, ant kegs are good fodder. Like, sometimes you want to have an encounter that's easy so that your players are like, oh, this isn't too bad, and then you hit them hard with a bigger challenge. Or you hit them hard with a bigger challenge, they blow through a lot of spells and healing, and then you hit them with a large quantity of a weaker monster, just to keep them on their toes. Aiden Krager, which series was your favorite to DM? Oh, God. Well, I would say season 3 was the most challenging, but also it was very rewarding. I think the way that Tony and Beecher and Sam really came together, I think that was kind of an awesome thing. Season 2 was kind of one of the craziest seasons because the party split and became adversaries, but that was also a lot of fun. That was, yeah. That's a hard question to answer. Rymore Morris, give a shout out for features and human variants. Yes, I love human variants. I love feats because they help you elaborate on a character. Sometimes the feats that you can choose aren't necessarily about being the most powerful or the best at something, but they're kind of just cool features. Like Dungeon Delver. Dungeon Delver, that feat was one of the first feats that I ever chose, and I actually picked that for a warlock. You might think like, well, why would a warlock need Dungeon Delver? It actually came in handy quite a bit. So I don't know. I mean, I think sometimes feats are not about just being the most powerful at something, but maybe just helping to round out your character. Tori Fox says, role-playing is the key to the game. I hate optimized characters and I won't play them. Yeah, I like to find a balance. I think role-playing is the most important part of the game. I do enjoy some strategy. I do enjoy being tactical when it makes sense within my character. But I definitely am not concerned with gold and treasure and like maxing out everything to be, because you could make the most optimized character and still be bored playing that character. Why? It's because the character you made doesn't have a lot of substance. You gotta have substance behind that character. VA says, bah, every edition has a broken class or broken rules at some levels. Yes, that's true. Every edition. I've played them all, and I would agree wholeheartedly with you. Thank you, Rymore Morris. Wow, you guys are awesome today. Thank you. That is highly generous. Have you or would you allow the students, if they are able to reach level 20, to be allowed to venture off and use level 11 or even level 12 spells? Ah, wow, DOD with the deep cut. So, yes, but I don't know if I would do that. That would be a very long campaign. Would I do that with the students? Maybe. But could I see that in a longer running campaign? Absolutely. So in my gaming weekend campaign, our high level characters were effectively trying to stop an alternate timeline in the Forgotten Realms where Karsus had actually succeeded in becoming a demigod by using god level magic, right? I don't remember what the spell level was. I think it was like 10th level spells, or I don't know, 11th level spells. But there was something at play, and it actually fractured the Forgotten Realms dimension timeline, and we were stuck in this alternate dimension where Karsus had succeeded. And so we had to basically figure out a way to end that timeline and return to a point in time before that happened. Imagine like Back to the Future with D&D in the Forgotten Realms. It was kind of a crazy adventure. I think wielding god power could be fun if you really played out what it meant for a character to transcend, to ascend to godhood. I think there have to be consequences. There has to be, how are gods sustained? How is their power sustained? So I developed a mechanic for that, like a homebrew mechanic, where gods were basically fueled by the number of devout worshipers that they had. And that every day there was a certain pool of godlike energy, like mana points basically, that allowed the god to be able to wield certain god powers. But that was heavily dependent on how many temples they had, how many worships there, I had like a whole spreadsheet for how it worked mathematically. I don't know if I would go into that much detail with the mechanics. I think I would just focus on the narrative and role-playing portions of it. But I would be open to it, but I'd be very cautious. Very cautious. Very cautious. How fast should you level up characters? Scrotman with another great question. In the old days, I grew up playing where we kept tabs on our character sheets in the margins of every kill. I mean, we had just margins full of kills. So we tabulated every kill for experience. We tabulated every bit of treasure, anything magical. And that was true, keeping track of points. Then we I think in high school, we kind of moved to more like group experience calculations where like the DM would calculate the experience for that session and then divide it up evenly for everybody. And now we've kind of moved to milestones where basically, I estimate the value of the amount of adventuring that's done and then provide that, they achieve certain milestones within the storyline, they will level at a certain point. And I think that it makes it easier for the DM to do milestones, and it makes it kind of easier for the players because now they're not focused on like everything being about kills. Or treasure. They're more focused on completing story objectives, plot points. So I think that milestones work better for a lot of reasons. But again, if people are in a group where they want to tabulate experience and know exactly where they're at, then great. It's just not my cup of tea. I think it's a lot smoother when you just do milestones. Wow, you guys are just tearing up the chat. Yeah, season 4 is shaping up to be interesting. I don't want to give spoilers, guys, so I'm not going to talk about the shows too much. But if you've been keeping up, you'll see that the groups are two very different groups. The Vixens and the Medusas are two very different groups of students. And how they work with each other, and also their actual real life experience playing D&D definitely is having an impact. The only person in the Vixens who's ever played D&D before was Beth, and she was even new to D&D, having only joined season 3 towards the end. So all the rest of the girls are total newbies. The Medusas, on the other hand, is not the same way. All of the people in the Medusas have played D&D before, so they're pretty competent. They're still newer. Some of them are newer to the game, or playing classes that they've never played before, so there's still a learning curve. But season 4's casts are definitely two different groups of people with different chemistries, different kind of playing styles. So it is interesting, and it's definitely a challenge for me trying to run things for both of those groups, because it's almost like I have to wear two different DM hats to make all that stuff happen. James Woodwright, you can always request stuff. I would be happy to do carrion crawlers on one of my future Monster Mondays. That's a great idea. Do me a favor, though, so I remember, and comment below, not just in the chat. After the video, leave a comment requesting that, so I have some record of that. Aiden says, favorite season was the one with Heather and her McDonald's. Yeah, we did have a lot of McDonald's back in the day. Hey, Dark Skull, what's up? Sorry, I'm just now getting to you being here. Karsus's avatar is a level 12 spell. Yeah, Tori Fox. So that storyline from Forgotten Realms is what we were playing through with my gaming weekend guys. So I was, at that time, I think I started when we got into this alternate timeline where Karsus had succeeded. I was 15th level. I was a 15th level warlock. And then by the end of it, when we reset the timeline, I was 17th level. So that was the highest level. That was the same campaign where we had to incapacitate a Tarrasque and surgically remove its gizzard and then put it back to sleep so it didn't wipe out an entire region of people, which was also a massive challenge. Level 12 fireball. Yeah, yeah, that's Maelstrom. Yeah, you know what? I like lower level stuff. If you ask me what do I most enjoy, I think mid-level's the most fun. I like playing through low level and working my way up, but I think by mid-level you have a strong enough sense of who your character is, and your character's starting to develop some heroic abilities. And I think that's kind of a cool part of a story. It's almost like the Star Wars movies, right? You have the prequels, 1, 2, and 3, you know, things are happening. But really, 4, 5, and 6, that's where the meat and potatoes is happening. 7, 8, and 9 is everything just getting wrapped up. So that middle range, to me, is the best part of the storyline. I don't know. I guess we'll find out in December. Oh my God. Why did the demon babies reappear? Well, I won't answer that because that's a spoiler, but you could probably figure it out. They're after something, right? I mean, you guys know that. DOD, the end goal is level 20. I've sat in games where leveling was once a year. Yeah, it depends on how often you play too. I think if you're playing every week, you can't level every week. Otherwise your campaign would be over, like too soon. So, it depends on how often you're playing. I think that's an important component. Do you ever push the students to not kill in the story? Excellent questions. Kanoko. I don't, I'm very hands-off. You guys have probably noticed. I let them make mistakes. I even let them make bad choices. And the reason why is because sometimes their bad choices have burnt them, have turned on them, and have created problems for them. So I feel like in a role-playing game, people can make bad decisions because it's a game, but still learn from that experience, in a virtual reality sort of way. I don't think I've ever had a student do anything to the extent where it was so disturbing, where I was like concerned about their mental welfare. But, I think if there was something where I was seeing a trend where somebody was just like straight up evil all the time, I would have a talk with them off camera and remind them that, they have to play in character, that kind of stuff, and give them some guidelines. That's a good question, though. I guess I would say this. I do tell them that not all problems are solved by combat. And I think some of them get that and they use social skills more. And some of them, tend to fall back on just kill it. I appreciate that you were throwing a puzzle dungeon at the Vixens. They're eager to push all the buttons and experiment. Yeah. It's fun. It's fun for me too, because I wanted to create something that would require them to explore. One of the pillars of gaming is exploration. I want them to explore. I didn't want to make it just about combat. I wanted them to have to think and also to work together. So we'll see where that goes. But yeah, it's fun for me too as a DM to have them have to think about how things work and actually, make intelligence checks. You may or may not have seen the video that I posted yesterday, but intelligence is an important ability, and the proficiencies that depend on intelligence can be important if you make it important in your game. So you guys know I have people do history checks and religion and arcana checks all the time because I weave that into the game, and if they succeed, I give them valuable information so that they know that, hey, I'm glad I took this. If you DM a game where most of your game is just running around and attacking and stealing things and killing things, you're not going to use a lot of intelligence checks, and then people will be like, yeah, what's intelligence for? Here's another example. When I was young, we didn't think charisma was important because it wasn't. It wasn't linked to anything useful. If you wanted to deceive someone, you just role-played that. You didn't have to roll for it. So I think 5th edition, and even 4th and 3rd, made social things and made academic things more valuable, but it still is incumbent on you as the DM and your group as players to use those, to take advantage of the system. It makes for a richer game, that's for sure. Wow, I am just so behind on this chat, guys, sorry. Tori Fox, I will say no spoilers, but your instincts are very close, if not spot on. Jacinto says, I tried an entire puzzle session once for my group. It did not go well. I had to keep giving clues just short of the answers or solutions. They requested no more puzzle quests. I feel that. Sometimes if the puzzles are too hard or if the group's just not in the mood, maybe you have to pivot and throw in something else, or cut back on some of the puzzles and throw in a little bit more combat to keep them engaged. That's just kind of one of those things that you learn as you go along the way, and I'm sure you've probably made adjustments since then. But aren't you glad that you tried that? I don't know about you guys, but I know as a DM, even if I try something and it doesn't work out, I still kind of feel like I'm glad I tried it. I gave it a shot. And I try to learn what went wrong, and maybe I try that down the line in a different way, but I adjust it, I tweak it. So I think even when you try things as a DM and it fails, or it backfires, or maybe the group's not as into it as you thought they'd be, you still get something out of it. That's definitely a good share, though. Burning down the Reeves Manor. Yeah. Bad choices are fun, yes. Oh my God, I'm so behind. Sorry, guys. All right. Burning down the Reeves Manor. Yeah, you guys know the high school kids have made many, many bad choices. Can we get a close look at your D&D tattoo? I'd like to use it as a reference. Yeah, it's funny because when I got this, wow, when did I think I got this in 2013. And I didn't see a lot of people online with this tattoo, but now it's like everybody has it. So good for them. I like mine because the model that I used for it was, yeah, see, but now you have a 4K camera zooming in on my hairy arm. The model that I used for it was based on the Chrome logo design. And so my artist wanted it to have some kind of depth. So he did some really cool stuff with colors to give it a little more depth, a little more dimensionality. And I'm very happy with it. In summertime, I keep my arm shaved so that it's not hideous. But yeah, I've seen people with just the black and white style of the same logo. I will point out to you guys that Satine Phoenix got her logo on her neck after she met me, full disclosure. So she knows. Satine, you know that you copied me. I still love you, but...
And we still have proof.
Yeah, and we have proof. Me and Croft were there. All right. What would you do if the players just wanted to live a simple farm life? That's fun. You know what? I'll tell you what I'd do right now. Ready? Adventure time. Write this down. Here's what I would do. I would bore them with the monotony of simple farm life. Like I would have them at first to be like, this really pastoral lifestyle, and like you wake up every morning to the fresh air and the sun and the sounds of your roosters, and make some agricultural roles. Oh, you've sown your seeds for the crop, and they get through a whole season and things are going well. And then I would have them attacked by a group of gnolls, and I would have their neighbors slaughtered by the gnolls, and they would be pulled back into adventuring, just like John Wick was pulled back into the killing game. How about that? How about that? Should bad things, historical societal things, in D&D be made less bad for children? Ooh. You mean like slavery? James Woodwright, that is a hard topic, but I will address it because if nothing else, my goal for Feedback Friday is to collaborate with you guys, my community. So here we go. Bad things did happen in history. Slavery, genocides, all sorts of human sacrifice and torture. All that stuff happened in history. And sometimes it's still happening today in our modern world. So would I hide that from children? I think it depends on the age. I think by the time I was in first grade, I understood that there was slavery, that people were used as human property. I think by the time I was probably in third grade, I knew about genocide. Like I knew about, well, specifically the Holocaust, but I think even a few years after that, I learned about the Armenian genocide. Because for the most part, Armenians are Orthodox Christians, and I grew up as an Orthodox Christian. So I think that as a DM, you can include some of those darker themes from our real history in your adventure, if for nothing else than to illustrate, that bad things can happen and bad people are real, and that, all of us have to make a choice. Are we going to be the good guys? Are we going to stick up for the people who need help? Or are we going to stand by and watch bad things happen? Those choices are what define us sometimes. So no, I wouldn't hide that from kids. Now, I mean, again, age appropriate, You got to know your audience. Nowadays, I think a lot of younger kids are a lot more sheltered than when I grew up. They've grown up in a world where they go to school and they come home and they play their computer games, and they don't have a lot of interaction with the outside world. They might not know what other people live like, but I was very fortunate to see what other people live like. And even at an early age, to travel around the country and to travel around the world and see how other people lived. So I don't think it helps to shelter kids. I think you have to handle it carefully, obviously, but how else are they going to learn? You're going to wait until they're in college before or high school to explain, that their perfect world isn't perfect? I don't know. I think we can't be scared, can't be afraid of horrible things. Because if you forget that horrible things happened, then you're doomed to repeat that history at some point in time. We must remember. And that would include in games. I hope that answered your question, James Woodwright. 3.5 is when everything became a role and it's good. I liked 3.5. I don't think they had to change it. You know what? We're going to talk about that topic after I get caught up. How would I go making rest periods in game? Aiden, your players, not you as the DM, your players have to decide when they want to try to take a rest. You as the DM have to decide, are there creatures or enemies nearby who would interrupt that rest? And you have to decide how well the party has prepared to take a rest, and if they're in a defensive position, and if they've set up a watch. All those are things that the players have to tell you, and then you could make a roll, or you could just decide. If you want to be merciful and they are desperately in need of a rest, you let them have a short rest. But if they're abusing it, have some randoms come by and interrupt their rest. Nothing like a little level of exhaustion to throw everybody off their game. Wow, there are so many of you guys throwing awesome things at me. This is a fire discussion today. Should get a D20 tattoo. I'm just now reading the comments about my tattoo. That's how behind I am. Defend the crops, protect the harvest. Yes, exactly, Braden, exactly. Scotty Marish is in this. Roll for bread baking. Suggestion, hire or make a question moderator. They can place question in a timeline and you can answer them accordingly. That's a good idea. Hey, Karafa, do I have a moderator in here in the control room right now? Is there anybody that wants to come in here with me and sit with me on this stool? You only live once. We didn't plan this, by the way, DOD and me. Why don't you bring that stool over here and sit down? But I do have a special visitor. You know her, you love her. Sweet, sweet Elore.
Hi! Hello, everyone.
It's Sam, everybody.
Ooh. My head cut off.
Maybe, I don't know. You're taller than me because you're on a stool. Rafa, fix the shot. DOD, you could feed Bill the questions via a separate chat. No, don't do that. In all seriousness, I love the idea, and if you could handle it, DOD, I think you'd rule out the position. Thank you. As a teacher, how is it different to see the kids interact in game versus in class? It's very different. It's very different. Some of the people that played in D&D were not friends. Like,
Yeah.
so they played in D&D together, but then outside of D&D, they don't socialize. But then again, some of them were friends and they do hang out, so they liked hanging out. Mm-hmm. Isn't it weird to see yourself 30 seconds behind?
It is.
Yes. You know how hard it is to just call Bill? Yeah, that's true, DOD. I think the problem with my group is that they talk and get sidetracked way too easily. Do you have any ways I can get them? Yes. If they're distracted, first of all, I have some house rules. No phones at the table. I minimize snacks at the table. And I minimize side conversations. So if people start talking about stuff that's not in the game while I'm playing, I don't like that. Because it is distracting for the other players and it's distracting for you. And if they're like talking about some TV show or some movie or some video game, get all that out of the way before you start playing. That's what I do. I have them do their table talk and then we play. No side conversations. Sam, welcome back.
Slayer.
The Kingslayer.
How's His Holiness?
He's fine.
I think he's good. Haven't been able to see him, fortunately, but it's okay. Hopefully soon I'll see him, guys. Don't worry.
Cruffle, what are you doing? What is this weird, slow, dramatic zoom that I'm watching from 30 seconds ago? I don't even know what I was saying. It might have been like totally unimportant. Oh no, it was when I was talking about no side conversations.
Oh my gosh.
All right, so Samantha, no one here knows about
Yeah.
the separate side thing.
That's why I couldn't say anything. I was like,
So should we just tease it now as like a little
Yes.
Thanksgiving present?
Yes.
All right, guys.
Please.
So guess what? You know we have the Vixens. You know we have the Medusas. But guess what? We have another show. And it's called The Bard Odyssey. And guess who's in it? Samantha.
Hi. Yes.
And Tony. Samantha and Tony, and two special new guests who you guys will meet soon, the Palisard brothers,
Oh,
Luke and Jake,
what a pair.
are on our new show, The Bard Odyssey, which will be debuting January of 2020. We have a couple shows in the can, and we're going to be filming a couple more in December. But the thing that I'm excited about with The Bard Odyssey is I wanted to do a show where every episode there was live music. And so it is happening, and it's awesome. And yes, Sam is playing Allure, and yes, Tony is playing Cademan. So you will see your two favoriteest people.
D&D Spec Ops. D&D, I got my hair cut today.
Yes,
And
she
so
looks
I
very
feel,
pretty.
I feel grown up, like with my hair a lot shorter. But yeah, I don't wear hoodies as much anymore either. Craziness. Can't wait.
Oh, that's awesome. Connor Casey from Ireland.
Hi.
Just saying that he's Connor's buying dice and a PHB.
From season 3. Oh.
That's awesome. Well, keep watching because we have more.
Yes.
I know it's crazy, but yes, we're going to have 3 shows. So it's going to be very excited. They all want to know if Tony does neat arts. I will not spoil that for you, but you guys know Tony, so you know it's coming.
You know something.
You know,
gonna happen
you
with
know
Tony.
something's coming.
If not a neat art,
It's
gonna
called
be something else crazy.
it's called The Bard Odyssey for a reason. It's just one bard, but there's live music every episode. You're gonna love it. Gonna love it. It's gonna be huge.
New artificial?
That's it. Bill is the god of DM. I don't know. We'll see if I'm the god of DMs.
You can handle 3 shows at once. I think you are the god of DM. What's artificer?
The Artificer is a new class that makes things.
Ooh.
Wizard Cretio.
I gave him the name. He needs to fashion me.
All right, do you want to take us out in song?
Okay. There was one more thing that I had to tell people about. Oh yeah, LionCon. our Little Own Convention. It's coming up February 22nd and 23rd, right here in the sweet southwest suburbs of Chicago. We will have all sorts of gaming and fun. We're even going to try to do a few live streams, so those of you who don't live in the Midwest and can't make it, you'll still be able to get in on some of the fun. So, come on, baby, don't you want to go? Come on, baby, don't you want to go? Yeah, back to that same old place, sweet home Chicago. Come on down to LionCon. February 22nd and 23rd at the Corral in Western Springs, Illinois. Be there. Thank you guys. We love you. Have a great weekend. See you next week with more Monster, Monster, Monster. Monday, 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 Monday. Monster, Monster, Monster. Monday, 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 Monday. Feel the power, power, power. All right, Crawford, that's it. I'm done.